Welcome back to The Perfect Storm. We have the usual suspects, and we just educated Phil on what the Kremlin was.
Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate it, guys.
What's the Kremlin, Phil?
We just got
It's the Russian White
We
House.
just threw Phil under the bus.
Russian White House. I learned that today 2 minutes ago.
I've never heard it described that way, but it came out of my mouth. So.
Now, there's plenty of people out there like me don't know what the Kremlin is, or they're just saying
The what?
the Kremlin. Is it the Kremlin?
Kremlin.
The Kremlin.
Let's get this underway. Eh?
That's awesome.
People are busy. We've got to share with them what's going on in the world because there's a lot going on, Kyle.
There is a lot going on.
Dooley.
Bunker busters. Bunker busters. What is a bunker buster? I think there's photos here. Here we go.
Something that busts a
That's
bunker.
actually incorrect photo.
Okay. Good, we've got our fact-checking live.
They have a very strong steel piece rod in the
Pinpoint.
centre.
Yeah.
They can go through 6 meters of solid concrete and then detonate after they've punctured that deep.
Mm-hmm.
And they say 85. There's one there. 85 of them in that hole where they killed the
85.
85. They took out 6 or 7 buildings that were on the ground. You can see the video footage.
Well,
and then they just bombed and bombed and bombed.
Right, who's doing it?
Israel.
Okay, and who are they doing it to?
They're doing it to the leader of Hezbollah, the last standing man. He'd been in power, Nasrallah or whatever his name is, since 1992.
Wow.
And in America's eyes, in Israel's eyes, he's a bad man. And he was 14 stories below ground in concrete
That's
buildings.
a tunnel.
You think that would be deep enough? They got him, and they show the video of it lifting his body out, and it's like a mine shaft.
I've got to say, Israel's getting pretty creative.
I tell you, the Lebanese people or either Iranian people have had enough of these crazy Islamists because they're tipping off the Israelis. The Israelis have some amazing spy network going on because they replaced the guy, and 2 hours later he was dead too.
So Israel's just Lebanon's just letting the Israelis straight in. Far out.
That as we're going to air today, what day is it? Tuesday. The Israelis have gone into Lebanon, and the Lebanese army stood down because they haven't gone very far, and they've got their special forces apparently cleaning out all the missile silos and the tunnels right on the border.
Yep.
So their own people can move back into their homes in the north there where they've been hammered by Hezbollah. Because remember, Lebanon is not traditionally an Islamic country. It was 70% Christian. And all the civil war and then these tyrants got power. And I'm sorry, I do not go in for any of this Islamist garbage. It's false. And it's destructive to any nation that takes it on. It is utter garbage. And I am so annoyed at the West that has gullibly invited thousands of, and I'm not just talking about your average Joe Muslim guy, but Islamists that want to bring in Sharia law. They want to take us back into the Stone Ages. And they want to kill Christians and dominate Christian countries. I have no time for it.
So you're talking about this. If you're listening on the radio, we're also on YouTube, and there's usually news stories to match or to highlight what somebody's saying. So on screen now, the opposition says Australia's approach to refugees from Gaza is too generous. Who is actually being let in? I heard an interview on the radio the other day. And it was talking about the fact that they let them in on a tourist visa and then did checks after they had already arrived, making it very hard to send them back out. So is this what you're referring to?
Just to give the listeners at home context, when the Israelis decapitated with all the pages, they took out all the leadership or injured them badly if they didn't kill them, of all the Arab countries around were celebrating. These are Muslim believers celebrating the fact that Hezbollah has suffered such a loss. Because over there, the Gaza Strip, they are Sunni Muslims. Hezbollah's from Iran, the Persians, who are Shia. They do not get on. the Arab states do not like Persia. And there's great tension in the Middle East between all these different groups. So much so, Jordan, the Arab Emirates, all of these neighboring countries will not take refugees from the Gaza Strip or any of these places because they know they've been, they're extreme. They're protecting their own countries. Australia is a compassionate country, and I'm proud of Australia that we are compassionate. And we see someone that's homeless and destitute, we want to help them. And I think we should let people in that are in trouble. But have mercy on my soul. We should vet them because it's going to be our country long term. Islamists, I'm not talking about Muslims, I'm talking about Islamists that want to impose Sharia law and take over the country politically. That is not God's will for this country. It is not God's plan for this country, and I will never endorse that behaviour. And they have allowed, clearly, if they haven't, they put them on tourist visas, they have let Islamists in, and they will get here and take advantage of this country. And any other country, look at what's going on in England. If we want to have a happy, cohesive society, we need to assimilate people and invite anyone in the world in a right proportion, in a way that they can come a part of our nation and not try and bring another nation's issues to ours. And I say it again and again, the Bible teaches in nation states. It teaches of kings and kingdoms. Multiculturalism has not worked anywhere in the world, especially when this ideology gets hold of a population. It's bad. I've offended everyone. I'm sorry.
Are you?
Sorry. No, I'm not. Sorry.
No, I think Australia has taken far more than every other country.
We have with a leader, more than America. Like, we are so gullible. What are they thinking? What are they thinking? And why, when we've had all these wars over terrorism, would you now just drop your guard and not vet people? By all means, we love immigrants, but we should vet.
Well, that sounds like misinformation to me. And
sorry about
soon there's a bill coming out that will restrict what you can say that they don't agree with. The government to introduce legislation to combat seriously harmful misinformation and disinformation.
So who's the guardian of this? Who's the judge
The
of
government,
what's
mate.
misinformation and what's not? So if you say
ACMA.
you say something, who's going to then say where's the standard to say this is misinformation, this isn't? Is it just someone's opinion?
Well, it takes
government.
at least 6 months for a conspiracy theory to become a fact. So
Well, just say
This
there's
is crazy.
We say there's vaccine harm, that there seems to be some side effects. There's blood clots. There is myocarditis, swelling of your heart from some of the vaccines, AstraZeneca, for instance. Mate, that's misinformation in the eyes of the government. You're not allowed to hold that opinion. But here's the kicker with this legislation. I'm feeling fired up today. They want to have... The media gets a free pass. They can say whatever they can. They do not come under that legislation. It's the average Joe. So no longer is this egalitarian country equal where Channel 7 can say something, Justin can say something, and we're under the same law. There's a separate law for me because I'm a pleb. The Labor Party should be disgusted in what they're doing.
Someone's got to report on you doing misinformation. So that's why they've got to give the media a free pass because they've got to be able to report on you doing this.
I'll keep calm.
I just want to...
I say to the listeners at home, I have gone out of my way to go into Google and typed in federal member for my where I
Electorate.
live. Oh, Christy McBean. I sent an email to Christy, member of the Labor Party. I said, Christy, hey, what's your stance on this latest... I don't care which side of politics you're on. Geordie, that crazy lefty Labor Party supporter, I forget what he's called now. He's
It's
got
something else.
He's
Geordies, isn't it? Geordies? Not Geordies.
Geordie something. He's
Anyway, he's
apologist for Labor. He comes out in my position.
Yeah.
We're usually on the other side. Good on you, Geordie.
Friendly Geordies.
Friendly
I'm hearing
Geordie.
to Mobile.
Whoa.
Don't play him.
Mobile.
He's got some bad words. That guy.
PNG.
Um,
I've been there. You
But
guys
yeah,
up to
this is
T-Mobile?
crazy. Like
this
we
is
see,
bad legislation.
Well, what if the Bible would be misinformation for them?
Well, Israel Folau gets sacked because of it.
In England, there's a shop owner that played Bible verses on a screen. He went to jail, mate. Because that Bible verses, and they weren't anything bad Bible verses, that was hate speech according to the government.
Thou shalt not kill.
Well,
Misinformation.
Just in case anybody's not convinced, let's just this is painful for some of you, but necessary for others. I just want to recap on some misinformation that would have landed you did land people in trouble in Australia. Had pregnant mums arrested, which turned out to be true. The COVID was of natural origin. It came from a bat in a wet market. That
Which
was
is false.
That was the one true narrative, and anything that wasn't that was not allowed. COVID numbers made to look high with too many PCR cycles. Yeah, that's what they were doing. COVID deaths jumped up and the flu's deaths disappeared. And then other natural drugs that you weren't allowed to use. You weren't allowed to post about that. There was no natural immunity to it. Natural immunity didn't exist. Lockdowns were necessary and beneficial. It was 2 weeks to slow the spread. You remember? Just 2 weeks to slow the spread. We're not to reopen schools. There was no side effects. They were safe and effective. And you need to wear masks. So if you didn't agree with the one true narrative, it was misinformation.
Well, this is raw still, mate, all this. This is really raw. And the thing is, whether that was true or not true is not our issue. Our issue is I should be able to say, as long as I'm not like calling fire in a theatre and causing a stampede and people die, if I'm just sharing my opinion, that's my God-given right to have my own opinion. The problem here, if you take away freedom of speech, all freedom will go. It is the most prime, basic form of freedom that you're free to express your own opinion. Even though the whole crowd disagrees with you, I can say what I like and I have freedom to do that. If you remove freedom of speech, it will never stop just there. In all of history, we see this. This is the first thing to go. What comes next is your freedom to worship, your freedom to congregate, your freedom to believe and think as you want to think and go here and go there. This is a step towards removing our freedoms. And we know in Scripture that in the end this will happen. That's why I should just calm down and say it's going to happen. But I got to rage against this darkness. This is a darkness that does not belong in Australian society.
My question comes back to what I was talking about before. Where's the standard? Who makes the decision? What is misinformation and what isn't?
A bureaucrat up the hill. We're in Canberra. These blokes across the creek that think they know better than everyone else, and they might not have. They might have gone to uni, so they know best. This is
because it's not the police. What is the police going to come and say? What you've said is misinformation.
That's what they did.
How do you know that?
That's what they did.
How do you know it's misinformation? How do you know it's not the truth?
That's exactly what they did. And we've picked on one issue. There's 1,000 of them. And I'm sorry, either you have freedom of speech, this is now black and white, or you don't. You can't have partial. Either you do or you don't. And what they're trying to do, the government's trying to be smart here. They're making Facebook and X and what other ones are there? Snapchat?
In Brazil,
Instagram.
X has been shut down unless they do what the government wants them to do.
This is the thing, mate. You take away freedom of speech, you take away opinion, you take away belief, we're just heading into communism. You think what I want you to think.
Disgusting, mate. And most of Australia, they're going to the footy grand final. They care who wins that. And
soon you won't be able to clap for the Broncos. They win.
Queensland's
misinformation
doomed,
to clap for the
Queensland's
Broncos
doomed.
because it's the wrong team to clap for.
Correct. But honestly, football doesn't even equate to what will happen. And we've lived in such peaceful times that we don't get. When Martin Luther nailed his 95 Theses on that church door in Wittenberg.
Misinformation.
What was it, 15, 16? That will cost you your life
Yep.
to say what he did, but he went against it, and because of his bravery, the West opened up to freedom.
Yep.
And
Freedom
that's
of
why
speech.
we're prosperous.
Yep.
Everything is crucial on liberty and freedom.
Now, you mentioned before these educated people that went to college. There's a guy named Dr. Robert Malone who helped invent the mRNA vaccines.
Yeah, he did.
Now, he actually got cancelled for his misinformation at the rollout of the vaccines that he helped create, or at least the technology that was used for the vaccines that were. He's just been to Japan, and you can find this story online. And this is in a speech he gave. He says, now the CEO of the Japanese company recently gave a press conference. And what did he say? He said, anybody that spreads misinformation about the rollout of a self-replicating RNA technology that they're about to release in a 30,000 person study in Japan, self-replicating, so exposure to somebody who has one will give you that RNA as well, apparently. If anybody spreads misinformation about it, we're going to go after him legally, and we're going to try and have them jailed. If you say anything against their self-replicating vaccine technology that's never been rigorously tested, we don't know if it's going to affect other people.
It's crazy.
So they're about to release what the Japanese are calling the third atomic bomb. And Dr. Robert Malone, who helped invent this stuff, is speaking out against it. This is just one example of somebody who had some misinformation and was punished because of it, and is still trying to speak out even today.
And I don't know whether that what he said's true. I don't know. But you know what? God gave me a brain, and I can go and actually do my own research and make my own opinion on that and live or die according to that. That's what we're talking about. The most basic, primal sort of freedom there is freedom to listen to an argument and someone else give an argument, and in the end, I make my own decision according to the evidence. I let the facts and the pattern of facts give me everything I need. And that's powerful. That's really how science works. Someone has a thesis, someone has an antithesis, and they'll go and get empirical evidence, they go and get facts.
Synthesis.
And I've got, that's the scientific method. That's what made us learn so many things. And they're jeopardizing all this. And it might seem like, you're getting overwrought, da-da-da-da-da. This is very, very bad. And the thing about the vaccines, you remember, Kyle, Phil, it was pretty chirpy time. They were shutting us down. We couldn't go to church. You couldn't go to the supermarket unless you couldn't walk down the street because you couldn't get in fresh air.
Correct.
More than 5 Ks. It was on like for Donkey Kong. Today, nothing. And they're bringing this legislation in. What's coming in the future that they're in such a panic that they're wanting to bring in this archaic, dark ages thinking that they're bringing in and out? That makes me very suspicious.
Power and control. And if you don't believe in their mandate or their agenda, that's misinformation. If you speak against what their agenda is or what their mandate may be, well, their mandate, everyone's got to get vaccinated for the last one.
Because our current Prime Minister, I don't want to say his name, he thinks he knows better than me because he's smart. He's got the right philosophy. His philosophy is rubbish, and I will make up my own mind. I'm so – we need to change topics, mate. I'm getting too
no, I
fired
just
up.
wanted to ask then, do we see this anywhere in Scripture? In the end days,
Oh, yeah.
where is this going? Because this is in fact a Bible show.
Well, Daniel chapter 3 is the classic because it sets up Revelation 13 at the end. And there's this great idea that the Nebuchadnezzar builds a statue 90 feet tall, made of solid gold on the plain of Dura.
Yep.
And when the musicians play all their lyres and harps and all this, apparently there's bagpipes there and everything.
Timbrels.
Timbrels, whatever they do, everyone has to bow down and worship because you're showing whom you obey. That's the same issue. Bow down and worship. And there's 3 young Hebrew boys there. We don't know where Daniel was. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And they said, well, the music plays and there's such a big gathering. One of the guards have to say, hey, King, there's some fellas there standing up.
Misinformation.
They refused, and they said, we're going to throw you in the fiery furnace. And he said, look, the God that we serve will save us. We don't care if you throw us in there. But if not, even if he doesn't save me, I will not compromise my beliefs because of your silly law.
That's right.
And we have this amazing thing where we have Jesus turn up in the Old Testament where they throw them in the fiery furnace. It's blazing hot. The guards die. It's so hot. As they throw them in there, they're overcome with heat stroke. They get in there and the king looks in. He says, didn't we put in 3? Why is there 4? And the form of the 4th is like one of the sons of God. There Jesus turns up in that thing. So we're quickly going into a time, I think COVID sped it up, where our freedom to do things we've taken for granted is going to be taken away from us.
And it's so important to see the Bible as truth. It's so important to speak up about what the Bible teaches. And if you're given a decision between, this is difficult to say and difficult for people to do, but if you're given a decision to deny God or deny his laws or deny everything that he teaches, just so you want to go or not get into trouble for misinformation, then so be it. Do it. Teach what the Bible teaches. Believe what the Bible tells you, because these guys are making up things, and the devil's going to deceive.
This is not law yet. There's been a review on it, closed yesterday, the submissions that could go in for this. I'm urging people at home, and we don't really tell you what to do other than we tell you what we think's happening, but I actually think this is so important that you should go to Google, find out who your federal member is. This is not a big effort. And then go to their website and get their email address and send them a pleasant but firm email about this legislation. Either side of politics, because I don't think the Liberals have been a bit, this is bad. We can hardly hear you. What are you saying? We hardly hear you. No one even knows this is happening.
This is life-changing, is what this is.
Has the potential to be.
And then overseas, we've got Javier Milei savages the UN for imposing ideological agendas on its members. He referred to the UN's support of COVID-era lockdowns and that it was guilty of being one of the main proponents of the systematic violation of freedoms.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about this guy.
He's an economist.
He's an interesting character.
He's a wild man. He does not like communists. He's a pure capitalist, this guy. And you see Venezuela, Argentina, the pendulum has already swung to the populace. It looks to me as if America's going that way. I don't know what Australia's doing, but all around the world, was it the Netherlands? They just won the election overnight, the right-wing party.
I'll look it up.
France, they nearly won. They're on the edge. England, it hasn't happened yet, but it will. Germany has really turned a leaf. They're actually deporting people all of a sudden. There's a big swing on. And this guy in Argentina has turned the country around. He's a fairly strong customer. He doesn't mess. And he's having a crack at the UN. Because remember, the UN is the epicenter of globalism. It was formed after the Second World War to stop populism ever happening again. Let's all become globalists. Globalism is doomed according to my Bible. It's not going to win. There's no great reset. It's not going to stand. That stuff's going to lose, and the populace, and by the way, Israel acting the way it is, France has said today that we're going to, if Israel keeps going, we're going to stop you. Well, go away, France. They're globalists, the power in there, so they don't like nations standing up for themselves. That's why Russia's despised, because they won't conform to the globalists. That's what's really going on here.
Can I ask you both? Because I think there's going to be a lot of people out here listening that have already turned off, that think that this stuff is just not important, and how does it affect me? And I don't understand what you're saying and what you're talking about. And all of a sudden, the next COVID or the next thing is going to come along, and then all of a sudden, everybody will be faced with that moral dilemma of, do I kiss the ring and live my life the way that I always have, or do I make a harder decision to not go along with it? Because ultimately we believe in Bible prophecy that that decision will come. What does one do now to prepare for this? Do we have to watch the news every day? Do we have to get educated on communism and socialism? And like, what are the steps, and why is it important to do something? Because ultimately, like, I know people very close to me that do not care about any of this stuff we've just talked about.
Look, they will care when they put you in prison for saying something that is your opinion and not the opinion of the agenda.
Look, we've lived in such prosperity. People don't see a danger here at all. They just think everyone's going to be like it. If I want to know the future, I just look at the last 50 years. That's not what we're saying at all. It is a very different future. The Bible has a lot to say on, okay, how do I relate to a leader, my prime minister? Paul says in Timothy we should pray for our kings and princes, our leaders, that we would live peaceful lives. That's freedom. It also says in Romans 13 that we should obey the government unless they're in conflict with God's government. And then we should stand up for what's right. We should never resort to violence. We should never resort to, just dividing society because you can. We should try and unify and live at peace with all men, the Bible says. But if you just silently let people take away your freedoms, guys went to war. Australians' blood has been spilled all over this globe for our right to choose to live in a free country and make our own decisions. And I don't think you should give that up. It was fought for so hard. So much blood was spilled so we could live this freedom to say, yeah, that's great. You can get vaccinated, mate. Go your hardest. I don't care. But I'm not going to. And you'll have to live with the consequences of your decisions. I live with mine. I love that freedom. The beauty of living with the consequences of your own actions.
And also, I just think it's a moving target. Like it may not concern you now, but you may fall into the place where you're going to say something that is not, that's misinformation.
Yep.
And it's a moving target. When I say that, I mean you don't know from day to day, month to month, what is misinformation, what isn't. You got a fair idea, but you might get trapped on something. And if you're talking about the Bible and you're sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ, I'm pretty sure that's going to become misinformation in the future.
Yep. And you look at Trump, no president has been prosecuted in the history of America. And now all of a sudden, they try to get 4 things on him. They're pretty bad at it, I've got to say. They can't get anything to stick. But they will if he loses. And then we will see chaos like you can't imagine if he does lose and they jail him, which I think they'll plan to do. Why all of a sudden have they had to revert to criminal prosecution, which I've got to say is the most lame charges they've brought, paying off Stormy Daniels. It's called an NDA. Everyone does them. That's not even a crime. This is perverted, whether you like Trump or not. And Trump says something that I have to agree with. They're coming after me. If they do it to me, what will stop them doing it to you? And all through history, the enemies, the political enemies, when you can't win the argument and you can't get the votes, are you just going to let power go? Well, you should. But clearly they are not. They are playing dirty and grubby. And this is they're opening a Pandora's box that can never be closed again. once you go down this because the other side will do it. So it's just a pure power grab.
Let me give you a Bible verse here. We're in 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 13. It says, "Therefore, submit yourselves to every ordinance of man for the Lord's sake, whether to the king as supreme or to governors as to those who are sent by him, for the punishment of evildoers and for the praise of those who do good. For this is the will of God, that by doing good you may put to silence the ignorance of foolish men. As free, yet not using liberty as a cloak for vice, but as bondservants of God. Honor all people, love the brotherhood, fear God, honor the king." There is a few verses that align with this, of course, on that side of the argument that we should just do what the government wants us to do because they've been put in power by God and we shouldn't stir the waters and we should just be calm and reasonable and regular citizens. So why
Until they
did
cross God's law.
Rack, Shack and Benny not bow down?
Because that was breaking God's law. You shall not worship a graven image.
So how is a vaccination mandate got anything to do with God's law?
I don't think I got vaccinated. I don't care about the vaccine mandates. Personally, sorry folks if you do. But I actually believe that your body and what you do to it is your business. And it's not the government's business to come and force you to do anything. It is unbiblical to force people. God never forced me to do a single thing in my life. He will give me such liberty that I can reject him, become an atheist, whatever. And he says you're going to live with the consequences, but that's the nature of God. And so anything else is the other side, and it's darkness. And we should call it out. We should have very loud voices about it. So I apologise to the listeners that I'm a bit stirred up. I don't mean to, Phil.
You got another issue there in Daniel 1 where they're nearly killed or nearly, for their food they eat.
That's it.
So eat from the king's table. No, we don't want to. We want to eat healthy food. We don't want to eat this stuff.
Yep.
Misinformation.
My friend, God bless him, I won't name him, but he's Russian. He's one of the great men I know. His friend in Ukraine, a Seventh-day Adventist pastor, went down to the shop to get some bread. He was captured by the government, not Russia's government, Ukrainian's government, press ganged into the front line. He was forced to go fight on the front line, never been seen again. Is that right? I don't think that's right or fair. This is perverted. This is the sort of stuff. It wasn't that long ago that Ukraine had a lot of freedom. It's been a very short path from there to where they are today. Very short path. So we need some happier topics, Kyle. This is too.
Well,
Give me something happy.
massive voter scandal in Arizona. 218,000 voters have been wrongfully marked as having provided proof of citizenship due to an error. And these voters will still be able to vote the general election, even though they didn't give proof of citizenship. But there's no evidence of.
There's a reason they've allowed the borders to be open. It is not humanitarian. It is to influence who gets in power. And all you'll need, remember, there's like 80,000 votes in some of these swing states, 20,000 votes to decide the election. So that's been the plan all along. Be careful, folks. Be careful. You want to corrupt things, it'll always come back and get you too. I don't like corrupt behaviour. I don't care what side you're on. Let it, we have a saying in Australia, Phil, it's not cricket.
It's just not cricket.
It's just not cricket. You got to play within the rules.
That's it.
If you break the rules to win, you've never really won. You've cheated.
Yeah, agree.
Well, that's all the stories I had up. I didn't have any happy news. I didn't know I had to prep happy
Well,
news.
there's not much happy stuff going on, is there? I've got to say about Russia.
I'll tell you what's happy. Jesus saves.
Amen. That we know how the story ends. That's
do.
the happy bit. I got to say, Russia has used on the weekend 4 of their hypersonic missiles that travel at Mach 9. radars can barely keep up with them. They travel so fast, and there's no defense they can use against them. They're just too fast. There were 4 F-16 sitting on a runway donated by Netherlands to Ukraine. This one $10 million missile destroyed $250 million worth of aircraft, pilots and engineers included. Gone. Russia worries me more even than the Middle East, because I think if America gets involved, Iran is not going to win anything. Russia, on the other hand, is a nuclear power with some really sophisticated weapons. We do not want that to escalate, because that will go into a very, very dark place. Why they keep pushing this? These hypersonic missiles have never been used by Russia. Every week we come on, Kyle, there's a step up and a step up and a step up. No one is stepping back and de-escalating. It's escalating, which you know where it's going to end in a full-blown global conflict. China and Iran are there in the wings. If Iran doesn't respond to Israel now, they're losing so much face because they set up Hezbollah. Oh, we got you guys. We're going to destroy the terrible Israelis. Well, here you are. Hezbollah's wiped, the leadership at least, and they're coming in, taking everyone else. What's Iran doing? They're sitting on their hands. So they're obviously counting the cost here, and they're going to lose a lot of face. This is a very dangerous time, folks. We need to pray that God will keep the world in his hand, and we'll have the freedom to keep preaching and teaching and telling the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
How do you guys, let me ask you, what are you reading and where do you read in Scripture? Things that give you hope and keep you grounded each day amongst all of this bad news.
I just love the parables of Jesus and the lessons that he teaches, because it's a different lesson every day. I can read the same parable 4, 5, 6 times and get something different from it. It's insane how Jesus taught, as far as how many levels of intellect are in the parables, and it's the Holy Spirit, affects your brain and leads you down different paths. But flat out Gospels for me. It's just the way Jesus acted, the way Jesus responded to situations, the parables that he taught, always give hope and always show his love for humanity.
I'm nearly finished reading right through the Bible. I'm up to James as of this morning.
For your
Finished
first time.
Hebrews.
That's awesome.
I've read it before, but I don't normally read it cover to cover like that. And I'll be honest, because my eyes are so bad now, I have to use glasses. I'll often do the audio version in the morning and listen with my headphones or whatever. But I like to do what Phil's talking about. I'll normally just read a book on its own and study that slowly. But this time I've decided I'm just going to go through the whole Bible. And then I'll probably just go through the whole Bible again, just keep going through the whole Bible. But when I was younger as a Christian, I would like to just read Mark or just read a story in the parables and relate it to me, and I'd write out stuff. And I change it up because you can get bored.
Yeah.
And God speaks to you at different ways and in different times in your own journey. But we're offering a book that I would recommend people to read because it's a very old book, and it was written about the days we're living now. You just got to text STORM, and we're talking about the great controversy between good and evil, and we're particularly focused in how the story ends. So STORM, this book is written in the 1880s. Initially, it starts anyway.
So wouldn't that be boring and out of date now?
It's one of the greatest books I've read.
It's unreal. And I'm sorry, I usually jump to the last chapters. I'm not supposed to, but I love the last bit, and it explains what's going on. If you want an insight into how things are going to end in this world, what leads up to the great Return of Jesus. This book's going to do it. If you haven't read it, or maybe you have and you need to refresh, 0482 082 876. So that was 0482 082 876. Text STORM, and we want to make this book available to anyone who wants it. If you don't have one, The Great Controversy Between Good and Evil, this is the American edition. It's really amazing old book.
And if somebody out there has some questions or some topics that they think need to be covered, you can comment in the YouTube channel, or you can actually text it into that number too, and I just have to remember to go and read that section. But if you have questions or comments or jokes about either Justin or Phil, please text them through to 0482 082 876. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoy your drive, and we'll see you on the next one.
God bless.